Hi everybody, it's Christina from Access Princeton. Today it's week 3 of National Preparedness Month, and we're going to be talking about hurricane awareness. As you know, Princeton was hit pretty hard by Hurricane Sandy as well as the East Coast, but it made a real large impact on the town. So now we're going to talk to OEM Director Bob Gregory, and we're going to talk a little bit about how Sandy affected the town and what was the damage throughout and how we have managed to recover from that, and some people are still recovering. Hi Bob, how are you doing today?
Good. How's everybody doing today?
Good. So tell us a little bit of what happened in Princeton during Sandy and what's happening now.
Okay. Well, during Hurricane Sandy, we had most of our damage from wind. There was some flooding, some homes took on water. Mostly they take on water because they lose power, some pumps stop, and basements fill up with water. But our real issue was wind, wires coming down, telephone coming down, trees actually being uprooted and coming down, excuse me, and blocking streets. So that was our main challenge, was to get out to vital areas. Like Witherspoon Street was one. Rosedale Road was another area where we had to get out there. We had to have our tree crews cut around live wires. They're trained to do that, the arborists, and then we push the debris to the side so we can open roads. And mostly, really why we want to open the roads right away is to get emergency services through to the different neighborhoods that were cut off. So it was quite the challenge. And we did have a lot of help from Princeton University. They also have a arborist and tree crew. And we have a joint plan to keep Washington Road open during any weather emergencies, specifically hurricanes. So they were very helpful as well, clearing areas up and down Washington Road.
And so wind really was the biggest effect of hurricane. What else can happen with a hurricane, and what else can come through with a hurricane besides just the wind?
Right, so a lot of times with hurricanes, the high winds, rain, right? So you're going to get a lot of flash flooding, roads get flooded out, things of that nature. Also, with the high winds, people don't understand, you have a lot of debris flying around. So we're going to talk about some safety things in a couple minutes, and we will discuss like what you should do around your house to keep that from happening.
Now, what's happening in Princeton now? Are people still dealing with the after effects of Sandy?
Some are, and we've done a pretty comprehensive job working with PSE&G and our own arborists to assess the town, the whole town. And we've been doing a really good job of removing trees, problem trees. I mean, we don't like taking trees down and things like that, but we pretty much had to assess what trees were going to be a problem, and we have a professional that does that. And we've had crews out removing and just cutting back some trees, cutting branches off, things like that, to avoid, when we have high winds, that they would come down or branches would break off and pull wires down. So we've had great success with that. That's one of the key things we've been doing. Otherwise, individuals, for the most part, are recovering, with damage that has happened to their homes and things of that nature. We in town are still working on, and actually soon to upgrade generators for the municipal buildings, which will, and actually hopefully purchase a few more mobile generators that will help us to power some of the reception centers. I'll talk about sheltering and reception centers. So we're moving forward on doing that. So it's been a bit of a slow process, but we're accomplishing these tasks that we set forth after the storm hit, and we're almost there to a conclusion.
If there are people out there that are watching and they are still struggling with some damage from Sandy, do you have some options for them to try to get reimbursed, or is there a particular way that they can go to report these problems and maybe get some money back from FEMA or something of that sort?
Yeah, I mean, the first step is always reaching out to your insurance carrier if you didn't already do that. And then, right, the other option is reaching out to FEMA to see what's still available. If there's any grant money or things like that available that can help you rebuild and take care of any issues that you may have had from the storm.
Okay. And now, as you look back on the whole thing of Sandy, what lessons has Princeton learned from that?
I think the biggest one we learned was to really stay on top of our infrastructure in the way of trees, tree removal, making sure that we really pay attention to that, because this is a old town with a lot of old trees. And some of the other things we've done, like I said, is to identify problem areas where we needed generators. The police have done a great job at assessing the main thoroughfares and street lights and things like that, and developed a plan to basically make sure that those lights are working, and or we have officers or fire police out there at different times directing traffic, so we can keep the traffic flow going after the incident and ensure the safety of the community.
Okay, great. Now, if you want to, you can go ahead and talk about some of the ways that residents and citizens can prepare for these hurricanes.
Right. So the first thing is people always want to, they are worried about shelters. So we have in New Jersey, and forgive me for reading here, but we have 3 things that the state came out with after the hurricane. One is there's reception centers. So a reception center is a facility identified immediately after an incident to serve for a short period of time, wherein affected residents will be interviewed, needs assessed, and directed or transported to another location. So for example, if we had a situation in town where a hurricane totally damaged one neighborhood or a couple neighborhoods.
See, I can't hear you. So I'm sorry about that. We'll try to get it a little louder.
So if we, with a reception center, if we had a neighborhood or 2 neighborhoods where people just couldn't go back in their homes, we would bring them to a defined area and basically get name, address, some information, and then from that point either taken to a shelter or if they had family to go with, or hotels, things like that. But a reception center serves as an accountability after a storm or an incident, a tornado, fire, things like that, where we can account for people and then help them find shelter.
Okay.
The big thing that we have during storm emergencies are resource centers. A resource center is somewhere like the library. We open the municipal buildings. The university usually gives us one building to use out on like Prospect Ave. They have 1 or 2 they choose from depending on what they have going on. And these are places where people can go and get coffee, charge their phones, use the internet. If the cable is working, some of these locations have televisions where you can catch up on the news. And we even had one where we opened last year through John Witherspoon School as a shower facility. It was a resource center, but one of the things you could do is go take a shower there. And the key thing is with a resource center is it's not a sleeping facility. It's just somewhere to go to kind of reboot. The third piece is shelter. A shelter now becomes a location where people are going to stay. That's where you're going to live for a couple days until things get sorted out. And that's a whole separate process. The health department needs to get involved with the shelter. You have to have medical personnel there, security personnel there. People are sleeping there. You need, bathroom facilities and the like. So those are the 3 different things that we have to look at first, when we talk about sheltering and resource centers and making sure people have somewhere to go to get information and, reboot their electronics.
And somebody mentioned a ham radio and a CD radio. Are they?
Right, yes. So, and then taking that one step further, what we strongly recommend is people shelter in place. And that means from the start, when you have a storm, a storm's coming, a hurricane's coming. That means take all your stuff from the outside, put it in the shed, put it in the garage. Now the other thing people like to do is they have grills. So if power goes out and they can't cook, they like to use their grills. What I urge people to do is if you have a separate shed, put the propane tanks in the shed, put the charcoal and lighter fluid in the shed until after the storm. And then if you want to use your grill to cook, that's fine. The other thing that I recommend is people do the kind of non-perishables, peanut butter and jelly, granola bars, things like that you can have on hand, fruit and stuff, a lot of water, You can pick cases of water up anytime during the year. You have it available, and then you have it when, the power goes down for a couple days.
What other items should people have in that type of an emergency situation besides your foods, your non-perishables, and water?
Right, so the other important thing is first aid supplies, as well as medications. I always urge people, if you have medications and a storm starts tracking, don't wait till the last minute. Get in touch with your doctor, and if you need to refill, or make sure you have what you need, with you for the duration, because it may be a couple days to, however long. We were down for 2 weeks actually with Sandy. We were till we could get most of the roads open and moving around, so it was difficult.
And power was out for that long too.
Yes.
Most areas, well, I should say a lot of areas.
Yeah. And some longer, unfortunately.
What kind of good things do you have here to show people that they can use?
The other piece of being prepared for a hurricane is charging devices. Now, there's a lot of people are going with the big fixed generators, which are great. A lot of them are gas fed, natural gas fed. They come in and, you need to get a permit, you need to get the gas company involved. They put them in, they run on natural gas. When your house goes down, they're hooked to a switch, the generator kicks on, and it can power your whole house. They're very good, they're expensive. Not everyone has that option. Others don't have the option because they may live in an apartment, a townhouse, condo, so there are other options out there. Before I get to those options, I just want to mention that a lot of individuals in homes also go with a gas-powered generator. They're fine, they work well, you just have to remember they need to be separated from the house. You should have them at least 10 feet away 15 feet away from your house, not any open windows, because they put out carbon monoxide. And if you put it in the garage or close to a window, it can get sucked right into the house, and cause problems. The other thing too with those, they run on gas. When they run out of gas, you shouldn't put gasoline, it's dangerous to put gasoline in a hot engine. So you need to give it a little time to cool down before you refill it. So there are some drawbacks, but they work fine. The other options, and this is for whether you live in a house, apartment, whatever you may have. I have some things on the table here, and I'm not promoting any of them, but it's just what I use. This is a real nice device because you can charge your cell phone, you can jump start your car from this, you can run your computer off of it, all off the little device like this, and I believe it's a 16-hour charge. So they're good to have around, especially if you just want to keep things charged up. And this is a charging device as well. This does pretty much the same thing. It is, you can put your phone into it, your computer. It'll also jump start your car. It has a light on it. So there are small devices out there that you can use to keep your electronics plugged in. And you can also do things on this one like plug in your toaster if you just want to make some toast. So they are available out there. There is also another option I'd like to talk about, and it's one that I'm personally looking into, and that's solar. They do make actually solar cells that you charge and then you bring them in the house, and you could actually plug in several devices off them, like you could plug a refrigerator in. So they do make solar devices like that. You just have to search for them. And I'm also researching now too, hopefully be able to bring some information back to the public about using solar as backup. Now to do that, you have to have a battery system, and there's an upfront cost to that. But once you have it installed, it's payback after that. So I might plan on meeting with a couple of the professionals in the solar field to learn a little bit more about that.
Okay, great. And then you can give it to Access Princeton, and we'll put it out on the web and make it available to everybody. That's awesome. Now, in storms like this, whether it be a tropical storm or a hurricane, how can people get updates on weather and what's happening in their town? Right.
So most towns, and for Princeton too, we send out phone messages and emails through the police. Access Princeton's also available. If the phones are working, they take phone calls and put out information. We also here in town, we do bring information down to the library. So if we'll make a flyer up or something like that with an update, and we have done that and put them in the library. And then we also have a plan in place that if we have some neighborhoods that are very damaged and people can't get out and electronics are down, we will actually get some of our CERT volunteers out. That's going to be one of their things. Actually, to go door to door or to go to associations and bring out, update information.
Okay, great.
For the individuals.
That's awesome. Okay. And now, you did mention shelter in place.
Yes.
If that were the case, why would we tell someone to shelter in place?
So basically, shelter in place means to stay with your home. And that's why, and our experience is that a lot of people don't want to leave their home. They're happy to go charge up their battery and talk with other individuals and kind of find out what's going on. But they really like staying in their home. They want to be around it to make sure it's, nothing happens, and that's just where they feel comfortable. So when we talk about shelter in place, that's what that means. Is if you could stay there, if your home's not damaged or you're not completely flooded, if you don't have power, you can, flash battery flashlights. They make rechargeable lanterns. There's charging devices. And if you have, generator available of some type, that helps you to stay in your home and use what you have there, versus going out somewhere to a shelter or somewhere else to stay.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I would just say if people have questions, again, they can, you can find me on the Princeton.gov website as well as Access Princeton, and we'll answer your questions for you.
Okay, great. Thank you. If anybody has any questions about preparing for a hurricane, like Bob said, feel free to reach out to Access Princeton or reach out to him at the Fire Safety Office in Monument Hall. Thanks for watching.